Hi guys, welcome to another very special episode of From Chaos to Clarity. Today, for the first time, we have somebody from the medical industry, somebody I've known for a long time. So, with a very quick introduction from my end, and then we'll ask her to further take it in terms of introduction so that we do justice to what Ruchika has already achieved in life. So yes, I'm joined by Ruchika Garg, a former dentist. She went on to the field of elderly medical care in Canada. She ended up doing her post-graduation from University of British Columbia. So there's more to the lady, there is more to the person. Now, before we dive into those questions which are going to explore that hidden persona, I would like Ruchika to further take this introduction and tell us a little more about herself to us.
Thank you so much, Ashwini. It is a pleasure meeting you after so long. And I'm grateful that you invited me for this podcast session. It's my first time, I would say that. When I was in my schooling days, I was always intrigued by the healthcare industry. So I did my dentistry from Manipal University. Then I went on to do my master's in medicine and radiology. Then I practiced as a radiologist, as a dentist in India. But then one question kept me engaged was that how can I change the systems in place? Being a frontline worker, I always wanted to influence systems, just influence the structures, which can impact a lot many people. That led me to look into the courses. I found an amazing course which was Masters of Health Leadership and Policy in Senior Care from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and it was all about the healthcare aspects, about the senior landscape, about the policies, aging in place, and everything. That's how I kind of expanded my arena and I pursued that course. Then I was working in Canada in the senior care sector, and it gave me a whole new perspective to what healthcare entails and what all changes can we bring to improve the lives of our senior population.
I think that's a wonderful initiative, Ruchika. I think something we are very closely observing in the Indian society also that more and more senior citizens now are left without children taking active care of them. So probably something that's needed in India too. And there are multiple centers which I see coming up. Uh, but if I have to compare India and Canada as of now, how much is the difference? And what are those three initial things that need to be done right away?
I would say Canada has a very established senior care industry. It has been there since like 5 or 6 decades. They have systems in place. They have resident engagement frameworks. There are structures which are consistent across all their communities. And though I feel India has a lot more stronger family bonding, which is something which we should relish and we should be proud of it. There are some changes, like there are some things which we need to focus on. Mainly is I feel that the senior living industry in India is kind of in a nascent stage, and it's doing good. It's been there since 8 to 10 years. A lot of retirement homes, senior homes, memory care homes coming up. And what I feel is we need more systems in place, something which is beyond medical care. What I feel is seniors are do not need to live a healthy life, but they need to be engaged. They should have the dignity. They should have the feeling that they can still make choices. They can fulfill their long lost dreams, and they can pursue those old hobbies. So we need structured frameworks to be implemented. We need, I think, more trained employees to be able to bring those dreams to reality. And I believe a bit more of resident-centered programming is required. Rather than just having activity and calendars in place, we need more of understanding how residents, what background do they come from, and how can we introduce programming which is all about them and or by them.
I think that's a wonderful initiative. Um, Something's coming to my mind. I don't remember the exact term for it, but I think they call it the human library. It's there somewhere in Europe, probably, where they have elders coming in and sharing wealth of knowledge and information about their life and about business, life in general, and many other things. I'm forgetting the name of the city or the country where this happens. But yes, like, such initiatives are actually brilliant, not only in terms of giving it back to the society, but also making sure that they remain engaged.
Yeah.
And for someone who have set the tone of our society,
Yeah.
okay, and who have made that huge contribution in terms of the fruits that we are enjoying today, I totally believe they deserve far more. So, keeping that in mind, moving on quickly to a little more about you. You have worked across independent living, assisted living, and memory care in both India and Canada. What is the biggest misconception people have about what elderly care actually involves?
I would say the biggest misconception is elderly care. The term itself says that we need to take care of them, of our older population. But I feel that aging should be something in which there has to be engagement and there has to be purposeful living. So taking care means taking care of the medications, their diet, but it should also involve some purposeful living, as in what the residents' hobbies were or what their past lives look like, and what can we do to promote healthy aging in terms of their social interactions, in terms of their spiritual needs. So I think it's not about only taking care and just make and seeing that okay they are living healthy, but them having that sense of dignity and giving them a reason to wake up every morning feeling excited, feeling wanted, feeling that if they're not coming for activities or they're not engaging, they will be missed and they are wanted. So that is something we should work on, and that requires a bit of a mindset change that we should aim for.
Wonderful. Wherever I've read about this, mostly the term experience is being used. So I completely understand, as you mentioned, engagement is very critical in this entire process. It's just not limited to taking care.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to further understand this resident experience rather than just care. What does that distinction mean to you? And why does language like that matter in how a community treats its inmates?
I would say when we say taking care of them means their dietary needs, their I would say their medications. When we say experience, it means how are the residents feeling in each and every interaction they're having throughout their day. In about like how are they feeling if they raise a concern, if they have some maintenance request which needs to be addressed and they're facing some challenges, how is it addressed, how is the staff greeting them, how quickly are their issues being resolved, or if they are some of the memory care residents, if they are not they do not remember a lot of things, but then how are they being treated. So I would say resident engagement is more of what are their experiences throughout the day, rather than the basic needs which their basic needs which they have during the day. That engagement is more of like how their experience is in each and everything they do.
So help me understand, as we discussed about that human library, uh, so from that little story, I get that our elders have so much more to contribute. How actively is the Canadian government involved in this process? Are they actively encouraging this? or have they left this entirely to the private sector?
I would say Canadian government is involved in, especially they are in charge of various amount of long-term care homes. Long-term care homes, as in where people are into palliative care during the end of their life. That is a part of the industry which is being governed by the government. They have set some policies and rules even for the independent and the assisted and the memory care, which is mandatory for the private organizations to follow. So they are taking some responsibilities, as in to implement the systems which they have laid in place, and they make sure they have audits. They have every 6 months there is an audit about maintenance, about the dietary and the recreation, and in general how the place looks. So the private organizations owe that responsibility and owe that they have to maintain certain standards laid by the government of Canada. And I would say that the human library, that reminds me of the program. Like when I joined Aspera Senior Retirement Home, I started an intergenerational activity because a lot of seniors, I saw that they loved interacting with their grandchildren, and I saw that there are some professors, some teachers, they have a lot to contribute, though they are enjoying their retirement. But and there are kids who can learn so much from those seniors. And the seniors, they do struggle with the technology or like different new avenues which they can take use of. So I started this intergenerational club in which the grandchildren and the children of teenage years, they were invited, and there were sessions every week where the seniors and the kids, they really enjoyed exchanging information, teaching each other things which they are very confident about. So I would say that this is something which every organization should incorporate in their communities.
That sounds amazing. I think that initiative of making sure that more such interactions take place. I remember before we started, you also mentioned something about Catalyst Mind Center. This really blew my mind. So help us understand. One, obviously, the conversation we had. Also, I believe you designed structured cognitive and sensory-based programs for them. What does that actually involve, and what impact you have seen these programs have on the residents?
So while I was working in the Catalyst Mind Center, it was an organization which was specifically to engage the students who have a very high IQ level, more than 120, more than 130. So they are extremely brilliant children. They are, I would say, they are gifted, and they are not able to do very well in the school, in the curriculum, in a routine curriculum, because they need a lot of sensory and mental cognitive stimulation. So this program was designed to help them engage in a different way than they would have engaged in the schools. So what I used to do is to kind of like, I'm teaching a biology session. I'm taking a biology session about suppose say known as called fungus. So I would take them outside. I would let them interact with the nature. They would do some plucking. They would kind of like look into the microscope, and they want a lot of hands-on work rather than just the academia and the curriculum, which or the bookish learning. So the programs were completely designed so that they are engaged more as compared to what they would be engaging in school. So those kind of programs, I saw that the children, they were extremely intrigued. They were able to catch up better, and they had a lot of attention. The attention span increased. So there are programs which benefit these people. Not necessarily everyone can have similar way of learning. So this is to incorporate children who have a very high IQ level, so that they are also they can engage better, and they can stay happy, and they do not feel anxious.
Well, I feel like using this term for them because we have seen so much of X-Men. But is there a term for these children? Do people use any term to highlight, how amazing they are and what a gift they are to the society? Is there a term people use out there?
I think they call them gifted children,
Okay.
and that would encompass that either they are extremely amazing in art, or they are extremely amazing in maths or science or any subject, but they are much above than the average people. They can probably read a book in 2 hours, which we would have taken probably 2 days. They're able to kind of make slides and macroscopically read things, see things which is beyond a normal human capacity. So there are entities like that, and this program is especially designed so that they're able to graduate earlier and they can live at par with their cognitive level, not their physical age.
I think that's a wonderful way of putting it. All right, let's talk a little about community building. I think it's very, very essential, especially to your domain. So, as a resident engagement manager, you build community for people often facing loneliness, transition, or loss. What does genuine community look like inside a senior living residence, and how is it different from simply organizing activities? Yeah, I would say that question is very dear to me because when I joined Sienna Senior Living, I used to see that there are activities going on, but those are like bingo or music or entertainment or food socials. But I felt that there is a void in are we engaging every resident? Are we doing something which is of interest to each and every resident, or are we just focusing on the ones who are out there, who are socially interactive? And I saw that there are a lot of residents who are a bit shy or who want a little personal touch or a personal invitation so that they can come over and enjoy the activities. So I started with maintaining the leisure profiles, which means that I started going through each and every resident about their hobbies, about their interests, about what they used to do, and what are their dream of aging, and what do they want to do in their retirement life. So this led me in gathering a lot of common interests. I saw patterns, and then I designed clubs. Like a gardening club or a book reading club. So there were authors out there who would be very happy to read out their books, but there were no avenues as such. So these clubs gave those residents an opportunity to feel accomplished, to feel that they are still heard, and other residents were very motivated seeing them, and they wanted to share their hobbies and their activities. So I would say that building a community means not only having activities, but to know what residents you are dealing with, what are their goals, how do they want to live their life, and causing an interaction between among all of them. So that would cause making new friendships each day or making a connection even when the staff is not there. There has to be some clubs or some events which the residents can lead by themselves. So they never feel lonely, and there is something to do for everyone. In fact, I was about to ask you that in terms of leadership, that are there residents taking the lead in terms of carrying out the activities themselves? Because the staff will not be around every single moment. I think you've already answered that. I have a very interesting question. So these people, they're coming from various backgrounds, and this is mostly coming from watching a lot of movies. People coming from army background, we've seen on an average, okay, this slightly peculiar or at times slightly challenging to engage or deal with Indian aspects. Is that something that you've faced? Have you come across army veterans? That's an interesting question. So I had two residents who were from army background, and they do have a very I wouldn't say rigid is a wrong term, but they have their specific routine and their specific way of living life and their viewpoints about the celebrations. Like Indigenous Day is something which they celebrate in Canada, which is to honor the indigenous people which were living in Canada. And veterans, they are very proud of what they have accomplished and how their life was.
and I saw that they are not very social. So I did have a chat with them, and I discovered that they needed a bit of push as to that they can share their opinions, and they can share so many stories which they have, and there are people who would love to listen to them, me being one of them. And I got two shy, I would say, two shy veterans who were eventually who were confident, and they came out and they shared their stories about the war, and what were olden days, how did they look like, how were the families, how did they manage work, and how did they give time to their families. So I feel that there is, in fact, there is a commonality between the veterans in Canada and in India. They have a lot of remarkable similarities, and they have their attitude, and they have their mindset. But they if you kind of like go into their stories and you value them, they feel valued. They would be the most generous people, I would say, and they will come out and they proudly share their stories. And we actually did celebrate them. I took their handprints and wrote a story about them to honor what they have done for their countries.
Wow, remarkable. It looks like, Ruchika, this comes to you very naturally.
Yeah.
These ideas that you're coming up with and executing them, they all sound absolutely heartwarming. So, probably this looks like a match made in heaven. A person who wanted to make a difference to the society is actually doing that. Not a lot of people do it. We'll come back to this because this is very essential to a lot of questions that I'll be asking you. But I have a few more questions related to community building. Loneliness among the elderly is often described as a public health crisis.
Mm.
What have you seen work and what have you seen not work in actually combating it inside a residential community?
I would say I've seen various kind of people. Some who will attend all the activities and they might still feel lonely, and some residents even they're attending only one activity, but they still feel a part of the community. So before combating about loneliness and getting into that, I would say it's very important to know about people, about their families, and to hear it firsthand from them, their families, their children, their grandchildren, in what kind of people are they, and what would they actually enjoy, and what will make them feel a part of the community. So I came across certain residents who were not very friendly, or did not really engage in activities. But then when I kind of went and talked and spoke to them, they came out with the reasons that they might take up more space in an activity, so they would probably stay in their room to let others enjoy it. So these were some things which I heard, and I was it was just completely unbelievable, because I used to take a lot of effort and call them and arrange so many things to conduct an amazing activity. But then some of the residents were shy, and they weren't very friendly. So I used to kind of like go and personally invite them, and I see that they eventually discovered that even other people have those common interests, and they would rather interact with them rather than staying in their own room, and that motivated them to come out each and every day to support their peer group. One of the activities I did was like a week-long Commonwealth activities, in which we had a game each day, and I divided them into two teams, wherein the team members have to show up for their team to gain points and to win the game. So that kind of caused a great, like, the vibe of the community was amazing. People were standing and cheering for their own team, and they were participating and they were showing up each and every day, irrespective of whatever health conditions they have, or whatever other personal challenges they have. They used to show up. So I think loneliness is something which can be taken care of when we get into their lives and see what is the reason behind them not showing up. And I think getting to know them and making resident clubs or having intergenerational activities or having activities, multidimensional activities, that did really help in combating some of the issues of loneliness. And I would say what did not work was just planning activities and not focusing around the residents or not making it resident centered. That would, I think that would never work in building a great community.
Correct. So agree with the wise words. One more question before we move on from community building. Um, so, since you have led wellness strategy for residents, how do you think about wellness for an elderly population differently than you would for younger population, physically, socially, and emotionally?
I would say wellness strategies would differ a lot when we talk about aging population and the younger adults, because in aging it is not only about the physical and the mental conditions. I would say they have a loss of trust or loss of confidence, which I've seen in majority of them, which leads to an eventual decline in the physical and the mental stimulation. Whereas the young children, they do not have so many baggages, or like they do not have so many memories to deal with, so they are kind of like fresh enough, and they can recover from their illnesses very soon. But for older people, I've seen that it's very important to encourage them, to give them a sense of purpose, to make them independent and courageous, to make them feel that they still have a voice, they have the freedom to choose what they want, and we are there to hear, and they will be heard and they will be seen. So I would say that that difference is there when we deal with the older adults and when we deal with the younger children. So older adults need a bit of encouragement, and and the activities have to be planned in accordance with all kinds of dimensions of wellness, like spiritual and social and vocational and cognitive, intellectual, which would kind of like give them a multi-dimensional benefit. Like in terms of intellectual, I would just say an example. Like we did a Masters Academy, which was a weekly activity wherein they learned a new skill, maybe cooking or a language, or like learning about Indian history, or learning about the European medieval age. And after 3 months of consistent learning, we used to do a graduation ceremony for them, wherein they got their certificates and their medals. So they could proudly show it off to their children and the grandchildren that they have learned something at this age, and they were very proud of it.
I think that sounds absolutely heartwarming again. Uh, Very critical points you made about community building. Uh, Now, want to quickly move on to education, but at the same time, there are so many other questions which are coming to my mind. So, a very short question before we actually dive into the education bit. Um, Such amazing planning and very precise execution that you spoke about, which is needed when you are dealing with the elderly population. Um, we are aware that in India, we're some distance away from actually achieving it. In 60 seconds, can you tell us those important points, one, two, or three, that the Indian ecosystem can do to bridge this gap at a faster pace and qualitatively?
I would say that India is doing great in terms of the senior living industry. I've visited a couple of retirement homes, and I've seen that there are systems in place, and they are the culinary department is amazing. The administration is great. What I would say is that we need a bit more of trained workforce. We need a bit more of mindset change. People should not be thinking retirement homes as a last resort to their life. It should be a choice wherein people choose to go to retirement home, because now they can be carefree. They do not need to take care of their essentials which they have been taking since years. So now this is a time which they deserve, which they can enjoy, and they can fulfill all their dreams. They can spend time with their children, grandchildren, and they can fulfill their hobbies, or make new friends, or maybe visit some places which they have missed out. So we need that mindset change in the young people and in the elder people, that this is a way of living which they are choosing. It's not the last modality, but they are choosing this way of living because they deserve it. And there has to be some structured systems for resident engagement, which I saw that's a part where we can improve on. There are activities going on, but it has to be integrated in kind of like for enhancing the overall community experience. Like families need to be involved in kind of designing activities for the residents. Residents need to be there has to be resident committees which can introduce themselves to the the new residents who move in. So there are some changes like these which, if in place, we can definitely build a great system, which can bridge the gap, which we can keep our Indian culture and our traditional values in place, and take some of the I would say some healthy points, or some advantages of the Western culture.
Right. Very well summed up. Now, let's quickly move on to education. All right. So the very first question, education. Why UBC?
Well, since I was in my early 20s, I always wanted to experience what North American education is. And when I finished my master's in India and I was working as dentist, I wanted to pursue management. And I was going across various courses, and Canada, I do not know why, but has been my dream destination since my childhood. So I came across the a unique course of health leadership and policy in senior care. So it was encompassing the administration, the seniors, the aging in place component, and I feel that that is a demand in all the countries, even North America and India, where we see a rise of aging population. So I really wanted to pursue this course. And what better place than University of British Columbia, Vancouver. Vancouver is an amazing place. It is, I would call, a mini heaven on earth. And it has exactly the right temperature for Indians to adapt. So it was a dream come true studying from UBC in Vancouver.
Wonderful. All right. There are thousands and thousands and probably lakhs and millions of people out there trying to figure out how best they can be part of the medical industry, because we know the perks, we know there are multiple benefits. It's also considered a very reputed industry to be a part of. But not everyone can be a doctor, not everyone can be a surgeon. Okay, so for these people who, either by choice or for other reasons, they could not make the cut to be a surgeon or any other doctor, should they lose heart and move on to a different industry? Or the medical industry has many more jobs, especially management, and probably there are many other categories. Is that a reality? Those jobs are well paying and those jobs are worthwhile in terms of working hours, in terms of work life balance? Or one should actually just look for other industries to be a part of?
That's a good question. I would say medical industry, healthcare industries is it offers a lot. There are many avenues. People usually think that there are doctors and dentists and nurses, but there are many more ways a healthcare individual can contribute to the society. It can be physiotherapy, it can be a chiropractor, it can be an acupuncturist, or various allied health sciences. I would say the scope is really great. Some of the fields do have a good scope in India as well, and some others have a great scope in America. So one should not lose heart if they are very passionate that they want to do something for people and they want to be in the medical industry. There are a lot of opportunities which they can explore and they can pursue that. I've seen people from the hospitality sector coming into the senior care industry because they have a good knowledge about how the hotels run and how the occupancy works. So now they are part of the senior care industry, though they did not have a healthcare background, but still they pivoted it to the healthcare industry and they are making meaningful contributions in the medical industry. I think there are a lot of opportunities nowadays, and a lot of them have really gained traction and they have a good scope as compared to the last 2 decades.
Wonderful. I think that does answer it to a large extent. Now, how about the work-life balance? The debate has been going on for a while in India. I'm not sure how keenly you have been following that, but I think a few months back or a couple of years back, not a couple of years, probably a year back or so, this really flamed up, and there were um, certain highly reputed individuals from the society in India who spoke about working for 70 hours, 80 hours, 90 hours a week. Uh, how's the work-life balance in Canada in this industry, and how do the perks look like? Because on an average, Indian parents are obsessed with glamorous positions like a senior doctor or a surgeon. Uh, is this industry also has a lot to offer in terms of work-life balance, in terms of perks, and in terms of overall growth, that this can be viewed as a long-term career option, which can satisfy a lot of desires of the individual, and obviously, making sure that the parents also understand this.
Yeah, I would say that it depends. Yes, I've seen in India people have worked 70, 80 hours in a week, and I would say it's insane because definitely they will burn out, and this is not something which is sustainable, cannot last for a very long time. What I've seen in Canada is that they are very strict with their work-life balance, with their hours. There are hourly wages, and they have set their minimum wages. And every field, every person has does receive a fairly good, I would say, they receive fairly good wages, and it they have a lot of perks, a lot of they would have I would say insurance, medical insurance, which covers many aspects. You do not need to worry about the expenses for those. The companies do provide those insurance and benefits. There are medical leaves, there are some wellness leaves. Even if they are having some mental health issues, there are systems in place where they can go and ask for help and they would be granted some leave or sabbatical leave. So I think in Canada, I did not ever feel that people do have burnout or they are kind of like they're facing mental health challenges and there is no answer at all. I feel work-life balance is really important. And in India also, I think there should be some improvements, as in about the hourly wage and about the number of working hours. Even if they are overtime paid, there has to be a cap to it because people do not realize at some point of time they can work for many hours, but eventually after 40s or 50s, they feel that in their health, and that has to be kind of like cured or should be talked about at a very early age of life.
Wonderfully, you spoke about that. In fact, with most of the people, I discussed this burning topic of burnout. Uh, Before I move on and probably talk more about a friend who's helping us out in terms of getting less burnt out, how real is burnout? Is it being blown out of proportion? Is it being exaggerated? Or do you think it is a practical issue and requires immediate attention?
I would say it is a practical issue and it requires immediate attention because sometimes people do not even realize the symptoms. They might feel lethargic or they might feel fatigued and wake up not feeling so fresh. but they do not know. So that what's happening in their body. They might take some supplements thinking it's an iron deficiency or something, but then eventually they realize that they're not as happy as they used to be, or not as passionate about their work as they used to be. So there are like it has to be, I would say, addressed in terms of what are the symptoms or the early symptoms of burnout, or why is somebody feeling the way they are feeling, so that people, they can assess it much before it actually hits you. And I do not think, I do not think it's exaggerated. In India, people have been working long hours, and even the timings. My own sister, she works from 2 p.m. to like 12 p.m., 1 a.m. Somehow I feel that's insane, because the her natural circadian rhythm would be completely shattered, and she would never feel wake up. She would never feel fresh, and so there has to be some cap to the system as to the working hours and the benefits which have to be provided to the employees. I think it's a real concern which needs immediate attention for sure.
Wonderful. I'm so happy somebody from the medical industry is actually saying it, because medical industry is also one of those industries which tends to experience this the most, probably more than what I can imagine on an average, because I've seen in hospitals in India how people are just working 24/7 to make sure that nobody is left unattended. So I can only imagine, and high time that we really take care of this. So now, a friend we have been talking about for a while, everyone has been talking about for a while. Probably after this conversation, we'll get to know whether this is a friend or a foe. AI, artificial intelligence. So before we dive into those specific questions, according to you, a boon or a bane?
I would say it's a double-edged sword. I would be inclined more towards boon if used very carefully. In the senior care setting, I have seen that we have artificial intelligent robots which have all the information about the residents, their families, and in times when the families are not able to meet the residents, the robo is the medium through which they can talk to their families. They feel connected. So I think there are such kind of boon we could never have imagined earlier. So this is something which our society needs to adopt. Just taking care that it doesn't replace the human connection and the human feel.
Wonderful. Um, so now to the specific questions. There's a growing use of AI companions and chatbots to address elderly loneliness. As someone who has dedicated a career to genuine human community building, what is your honest reaction to this trend?
I would say it's good to a certain point, because there are people who do face loneliness, and they face isolation sometimes. So such technology will definitely, I would say, it does improve the quality of life and does enhance the well-being of the residents. They feel more socially connected. They feel that they're a part of the bigger community. They do not feel isolated, even when they are not so much energetic or not up for activities. They can interact with robots or such things, so that they still are doing something rather than just feeling lonely. So I completely agree that these technologies should be incorporated in our system.
All right. I think that's going to encourage a lot of bot engineers worldwide. All right. So, uh, India and India's love for tech is very well known. India is rapidly becoming a major force in global technology and AI. Do you see that translating into better elderly care and healthcare technology within India? Or is that still a long way off? I would say that India is kind of like adapting to the new technology, and it has been helpful. There are systems. One of the system which I saw in the Canadian workplace is
a digital kind of an iPad which has all the information about the residents, and it has the menu for the whole week and the activities planned and the events, the birthdays of each and every resident. So whenever the families came in, they could assess what's going on in the community, and they can kind of like talk about it with their parents. So I think technology has played a major role, and it has a great positive impact when used carefully. A lot of times I've seen that people are into their phones and they're not interacting, and there's a less of personal and human connect. So there has to be some systems in place so that there is a line, there is a boundary as to how much do we need this technology and where it has to be cut. But otherwise, I feel that it's a great boon and we can use it positively. It also depends on us how we are able to use it.
Wonderful. I think, Ruchika, you have answered these questions in the most fascinating and the most meticulous way I can imagine. So a big, big thank you to you for one, obviously being here and making sure that we are able to do justice to this conversation, which is becoming more and more critical as we go ahead, as our society evolves, as we observe that how fragmented a lot of things are becoming. The elders are not as much part of the society as they used to be. We also see the birth rates now declining. So somewhere healthcare is gaining more and more importance. That said, I want you to leave our audience with one message for every young person in India thinking about a career that combines healthcare, technology, and genuine human care for others.
I would say senior care. It's not because I am working in this industry, but senior care is something which will have a lot of demand. There is a lot of aging population and declining young population. So we need to have systems such that the elders are being taken care of with dignity, and they're engaged, they feel respected, they feel purposeful. So to the young people, I would say choose a career where your heart lies, where you feel motivated to work, because motivation is something which drives and which kind of lets you push the boundaries and go above and beyond to do anything in your life. But healthcare is something which has different avenues. Even somebody in an engineering field can pivot into healthcare. They can use that knowledge in the betterment of lives of people. So people from different fields can contribute to the medical care, and I think that would be a great boon where we are in a mindset where we know that we have aging population and that we need to address the challenges, and we need to take care of them in the most dignified way possible.
Wonderful. I think it was extremely graceful and extremely informative and knowledgeable from somebody who's there on the ground executing these strategies day in and day out with a big, big, I would say, this experience that I've had with you last 1 hour talking about healthcare and talking about education opportunities. So a massive thank you to you one more time. Thank you for gracing the podcast and sharing amazing insights. It was absolutely lovely. Any quick last thoughts for all of us here who are trying to make a difference in our own way? Is there something we can improve further? Is there something we should keep doing?
I would say that that's a very good point. I would say, Ashwini, I think everyone in their own space can definitely make an impact on others. You do not need to choose a profession where you can do this. You can do that even by like a simple smile on your face when greeting somebody, or simply being non-judgmental, being more empathetic, being compassionate when you see somebody is not very happy. So everyone can make impact in others' lives. even without kind of like formally starting it or formally practicing it, you're making a great impact in life of others. As I recall that I reached out to you when I was planning for Canada and I wanted a bit of brushing of my English and IELTS. So you're doing a great job, and I really thank you so much for inviting me for this podcast. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be back again with another very interesting guest and another very interesting topic to talk about. Thank you.